Welcome to Back to Class Friday. The look I'm trying to do is Castle Grayskull, and it's semi-working out. I don't know. It'll probably look better when I edit the photos. Like, y'all know I kind of can be ruthless with this. I be calling people out first name and last name and showing their picture because nobody watches. The only classmate of mine that watches is Robin Amadon, and I freaking love you, Robin Amadon. Literally, me and Robin go back a while, and she's like really the only classmate that I still talk to. The only one that was ever nice to me, like wholeheartedly. A huge shout out to Robin. And I know as soon as I mention this name, she's gonna know who I'm talking about. We are talking about this character right here. It is Sharisha Norris. Oh my gosh. So, Sharisha is an interesting character. I'm going to go ahead, since I got most of my face done, I'm going to kind of lead into it, and then we'll start highlighting and doing the eyeliner. So Sharisha was with us from a couple weeks into 4th grade all the way into 5th grade, and I felt bad for her when she first came in because I remember the day that our teacher introduced us to her. She walked in, she was late, her first day. And she walked in, and I felt bad because here you have a school full of kids that know each other. Like I said in my previous video, we all knew each other's names and faces, and we were familiar with each other. And that year, I remember we did not have many students. I think out of our whole building, there were maybe 10 students that were new, if that. And she's walking in a couple weeks after school started. So immediately you stare at her. And I felt bad because I'm like, that it has to be an uncomfortable feeling walking into a room full of kids you don't know at a new school. All of them know each other because that year everybody knew each other already. We had gone several grades together. So I'm like, I do feel bad for her. I want to be her friend. And she seemed like she was sweet. She sat down and she was very quiet. I do remember, I think the teacher tried to get her to introduce herself, and she was just like, I'm Sharisha. That's it. And I decided to go ahead and talk to her at lunch. The way our lunchroom was set up, it was a big room, 2 big tables. No one sat at the second table because no class was big enough to fill up the entire lunchroom. So we would sit at one long table. Everybody would sit with their friends up towards the front, and then anybody who was just like, a nerd or wasn't popular with the in crowd, the 24 of us, they would sit at like the end. And she was sitting all the way at the end by herself. And I'm like, that's really rude that no one can show the Lutheran school attitude and talk to her. So I sat down and I'm like, hi, I'm Erin. And she acted like I was bothering her. She did not want to talk to me. And I'm like, deuces, cool, okay, fine then. I was trying to be nice because you're in a new school, and I didn't want it to be awkward, but you hate me. So I went ahead and I had to sit down by her because we only had a certain amount of time to pick our seats. So I was stuck with her, and I just sat there in silence. I do believe Robin tried to talk to her, and Sharisha was rude to her too. So right off the bat, sister, you're not making any friends. But after a few days, I noticed she was talking to a few of the meaner girls in our class. So I'm like, okay, she literally has already established herself as kind of like a bitch. Like, cool beans. Okay, so you gave me the send-off, you gave Robin the send-off, you gave my friends the send-off, and now you're popular, as soon as you walk into the school. All right. I haven't even gotten to the crazy part. That's not the crazy part. You know what? I'm going to finish up my makeup because this is one of those stories that's going to require my full attention. I will add in a tidbit, which will come in handy later. So our school began at 8:30. The latest you could be there is 8:25. Now, before in previous years, the rule was if you came into the school after 8:25, you had to immediately go to the admissions office or the secretary's room and pick up a pink tardy pass with this sad kid on it with a little, I'm sorry note. which I became so familiar with these that I could probably draw it for you, literally. That year, they came up with a new rule because the teachers all had varying roles and they were bending them too much and the kids were bending them too much with the tardiness. So the school came up with this rule, I think because Mrs. Holslander, who was our fifth grade teacher, she would basically be like, look, if my door's open, come right on in. I'm not going to mark you as late. You're there. And she would kind of bend the rules a lot because she would forget that her door is open. So it's like, walk right in at 3:15. I'm here. No. But the school was like, okay, so what we're going to do is if your teacher's door is open, go ahead and go in. But if you go to your room, even if it's all the way downstairs, and you see that your teacher's door is closed, you have to go back up to the secretary's office, grab a tardy pass, go back and hand it in. That's going to be vital information for your everyday life later on. As I said, I was one of those kids that I wasn't always late, but 2 or 3 days out of 5 days a week, I was late. I could not be like my friend Hal David, who was always on time. I was not like Stephanie Minifield, who got one tardy in her entire tenure at our school and was torn up about it. Literally, our school gave away, I think as an incentive, after every quarter they give away the perfect attendance award. There wouldn't know I was winning it because it was, you could be late. No, you could be sick once, but late never. I got that once out of 6 years. Y'all want to guess how many Sharisha got? Here we go. Do y'all remember when I said she was late the first day? The first day she was late by 10 minutes or so. About a month into school, she started showing up at 10. School starts at 8:30 and she would show up at 10. I'm not lying. Hand to God, I'm not lying. Never in all my years did I see someone who was A, as late as much as her, and B, was as late as she was. Trust me, it gets crazier. So, we started noticing this. And the thing is, if the kids notice that another kid is late, that's bad. Because then teachers notice, and once the teachers notice, and then our principal would find out, our principal had this sweet but annoying way of saying you're late. This actually happened months afterwards. She was coming through the lunchroom and every kid who was perpetually late, she'd go up and she'd be like, is your alarm clock broken? Is your alarm clock broken? Well, is your alarm clock broken? And I'm like, okay, I know she's gonna hit Sharisha up because Sharisha was the latest of us all. She went right to her and was like, is your alarm clock broken? And Sharisha's like, no, why? And Miss Maya is like, well, because you're late a lot. You might want to get an alarm clock. And then I told my friend, I'm like, Hal David, I know she's coming to me. And she went right to me next. And I was like, well, to be honest, and I probably should have got smacked for this. I was like, to be honest, you're going to have to talk to my mom because she's the one who drives me. I don't drive the car. I don't dictate how late I am. And she's like, that's a good point. I'm going to call your mom. That's how I got her off my back. And honestly, after that, I think she must have called my mom because I wasn't really too late after that. It started to be a once every other week kind of thing. But with Sharisha, it became an everyday thing. Y'all, this is how bad it got. There was one day, because our recess started at noon. This cat. Our recess started at noon, and I remember one day we were outside playing, and all of a sudden I'm like, is that Sharisha? And my friends are like, that is Sharisha. She was not there at all until recess. I was like, are you kidding me? I'm like, did I miss something? Did she sneak into class before recess? And they're like, no, she literally snuck in during recess. No one's gonna notice. Just all of a sudden she was gone Didn't see a peep out of her, and then she appears after recess and lunch like nothing happened. And that's literally how it was. Like, we went to lunch afterwards and we came back to the room, and I'm like, no one's gonna point out the fact that she was MIA the entire morning and just shows up. But that is not the craziest part. Do you hear me? I'm going to zoom up. That is not the craziest part. First, before we get to the craziness, let me mention the latest she ever showed up, which was 2:30. Why? 2:30. Let me zoom in again. 2:30. Ma'am. No, ma'am, can we talk about this? Pop up her picture. Sharisha. Excuse me. Yeah. We got out of school at 3:15. She shows up at 2:30. That is like literally watching a half-hour program show 25 minutes after it starts. For what reason does that... I mean, I know that it's better to be there than to not be there, but why would you show up? No, you ain't even got an hour. I remember the day because we were sitting there, and around 2:30 is when you started not wrapping up necessarily, but it's like, the day was coming to an end. So we're just sitting there, and all of a sudden she walks in looking disheveled as F, coat all caught to the side, barrettes undone, and just sits down. And I'm like, I remember literally, I can like think back to that day. I'm sitting there like, she had to have been here. She had to, I know she's quiet. She was very quiet. She was easy to kind of like look over. I know that's bad to say, but sometimes you didn't notice that she was there. And I'm like, has she been here the whole day and just happened to walk in? Like, she went to the bathroom and walked in, and I'm like, no one's going to say anything until the teacher was like, Sharisha, do you know what time it is? And she's like, yes. And the teacher's like, Sharisha, this was 5th grade, by the way, so it was Miss Halslander. She's like, it's 2:30. And Sharisha's like, uh-huh. We leave school at 3:15. Okay. And I'm like, this is not fair. I would get reamed if I was late 3 days in a row, and this girl is showing up whenever she wants to. Here's where things get uber sketchy. So, Sharisha's mom drove one of those vans. I don't know what make or model they are, but they were the kind of van that, like, you would open up the back, and it was like a sitting area. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of space in the back. It was easily recognizable because it was maroon. It was like the only van that really looked like that out of all the parents that drove in our school. We would know when her mom would show up. We could kind of see out of the side window the van driving up late AF, and then a couple minutes later, Sharisha just popping into the classroom like nothing happened. I need like 2 minutes to collect myself on this one, because when I tell you I'm telling the God's honest truth, Jesus strike me down if I'm lying. So, I got there abnormally early one morning. I think it was because our clocks were off, something like that. It was right after the principal said, "Is your clock broken?" My clock literally broke, and my mom and I showed up an hour early, because we showed up and we're like, oh my god, school's been canceled, there's no one here. And then, my principal came out and she's like, "You're early, Aaron, oh my gosh." And we're like, oh crap. So we just sat there. There's don't bother going home. So we just sat there until the building actually opened. Sharisha's van was next to my car. Like, not right next, but we could look down and there's Sharisha. I'm like, there's something sketchy. The kids that were told they were late are here early. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I bet you my principal is happy. She didn't go up to Sharisha's van. But we were just sitting there, and then other kids started showing up. So I went in, no Sharisha. Waiting. I'm telling all my friends, I'm like, Sharisha Norris is here early. I was here early. The kids that were told that they were late are here early. It's an omen. I'm sitting there in class, and we're all sitting, and the other kids had seen her van too. And then I'm like, I wonder if it's still out there. So we were kind of sneaky. There is a big window next to the upstairs bathrooms. And I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom around like 9 something. And I went, there's the van. I see her mom right in the van sleeping. And then I'm like, okay, this is weird. Where is she? Went back to class. We're sitting there. And then Sharisha walks in like 10 o'clock. I'm like, who does that? How bold are you to sleep in the parking lot? So I told my mom when I got home, and still to this day we joke about it, like, she slept there all night to be early, and she still wasn't early. It gets a little bit better, too. You know, in the warmer months for gym, we would go outside and we would play in the front of the building near the church end because they had a big front lawn. So one day we're out there playing and Sharisha, of course, you know, isn't in school yet, but her van's there and she just pops up the back of the van and joins us. And I was like, does no one see this? Like, I felt like I was the only one who noticed this. Robin Amadon, I know you're watching, and I know you noticed it too. You were just too nice to say anything. This girl was showing up whenever she wanted. And then to boot, her mom was just laying in the van, dead asleep. Like, I imagine she was snoring, because it looked like she was just that relaxed. So my principal went up, and she's like, Miss Norris, do you need something? And she's like, no. She was just like Sharisha. No. And her principal's like, okay, well, school lets out at 3:15, so you're welcome to come back if you need to. I'm fine. Like, Sharisha and her mom had no sense of what was going on. Like, it was just like, okay, the world revolves around us. Time don't matter, obviously. No, this girl was a mess because there was a few days, and when I say a few, it was legit at least 3 days. She was gone. And I was telling people, I'm like, she's probably gone for good. They probably told her to leave because you can't just be coming up at 2:30 in the afternoon for school. But no, she returned a couple days later with a knee brace. And everybody's like, oh my gosh, are you okay? Did something happen to your knee? She goes, growing pains. So you was off 3 days because your knee hurt. You couldn't put some tussin on that and go to school. No icy hot, no wrapping it up. You couldn't even sit in a wheelchair and wheel in if it was that bad. You had to call off 3 days because your knee hurt. Like, oops, I stubbed my toe. I can't come to school for a week. I'm sorry. No, that's not how school goes. I literally believe that her and her mom had no concept of how school was supposed to be. You know, to me, it was kind of, to a point, it was disrespectful because she obviously didn't want to be there. You do not want to be here. Remember that clip of Sharon Osbourne from, what was it, The Rock of Love, where he's like, I don't want to be here. That was Sharisha. Like, you don't want to be here, do you? Y'all, I seriously cannot express enough what a mess she was. The last time we saw her, I do believe she either left or quit in 5th grade. Like, not quit school completely, I don't know, maybe she did. But we never saw her after, like, midway through 5th grade. She just left, and there was no explaining it either. It was just like, she was gone. Because I kept thinking that day, I'm like, dang, she gonna be really late, because it's 3 o'clock and she never showed up. The next day, I'm like, okay, she's got growing pains. She's probably at home and she'll be here tomorrow. Didn't happen. It just, like, after a while, finally, I'm like, is Sharisha Norris never coming back? And Miss Holzander's like, no. And that was it. So I'm kind of assuming maybe she was asked to leave and went to a different school because our school was really strict about tardiness, but it was also lenient for those who didn't take advantage of it. Like, for me, at least I was honest. I'm like, it's not my fault, it's my mom's fault. So, it got better after they're like, look, Miss Johnson, you cannot bring your kid to school like 5 minutes after. It's like, dude, okay, 5 minutes after, a couple days a week, come on. I wasn't missing anything. Attendance. But for you to just be rolling up, to not even roll up, you're there. You are there. I don't understand. I don't even know how early she was there because she was there before I was. So you're going to be in the parking lot and still be late. Made no sense. Yeah, I'm so sorry, Sharisha Norris, if you ever see this, but girl, you know that was a mess. That was some unacceptable mess. There's like a difference between being late and unapologetic and being late and actually feeling bad about it, which I always kind of felt bad about it, but I got used to it because I'm like, just my mom's freaking late all the time. Stephanie Minifield was in tears the one day she was late after 7 or 8 years of being in our school because she started in like pre-K. She was legit devastated, like cried the whole day. I'm sorry, Stephanie, if you're watching, but you did. I felt bad for her because it even devastated me because she was a good friend of mine, and I'm like, dude, that's a record that's soiled. Give her the freaking day. It was not her fault. Robin Amadon was always on time. Her dad worked there. There was no option. There's absolutely no option for Robin, and she was good about it. But yeah, I just think it was a huge slap in the face, especially to me, someone who was late a lot and always got chewed, like my ass chewed for it by teachers. By teachers that weren't even in my grade. They'd be like, well, Aaron's late. And I'm like, I don't even know you anymore. I'm not in your grade anymore. And they'd still be chewing me out. Like ribbing. Not mean, but ribbing. And then you got Sharisha showing up like at 6 o'clock at night like, yo, I had growing pains and I'm here to learn. No. Whew, that was some craziness. Literally some craziness. Watch her come back and try and sue me for slander, but it was true. So, you guys, I know that was a more fun and lighthearted Back to Class Friday. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a good time reminiscing. So make sure to catch next week where we'll have even more fun times to talk about. As always, you know what I'm going to say. Like, share, and subscribe my videos. Even if you don't watch them, I appreciate you sharing them with other people who will watch them because I'm trying to be famous.